every sport. He's more of a baseball guy, right? He goes, I understand the thought that you compare players to how well they did in the era they played in. But the evolution of athletes is, we can probably say that the best 20 basketball players in history have probably played in the last 20 years, Zach. Those other guys are great, but if you took them for what they were in their time and dropped them in today's game, a lot of those guys couldn't even get in the league. And I'm talking about some guys who are in the top 75 all time. And I don't say that to disparage people. We evolve over time. Athletes are getting better. How can you look at a sport like track and field or swimming and see that the times keep improving and think in our sport players don't continue to get better?
Peace and blessings. Welcome to GOAT James Kingdom. Now, Stan Van Gundy is nothing new to controversial comments, but this is a very controversial comment that we get from Stan Van Gundy. Now, we all know, yes, we obviously evolve, we get better, not just as far as our physicality as human beings, as far as getting faster, stronger, smarter, quicker, and things of that nature, but we actually do get better skill-wise. We actually have gotten a lot better in all of these sports when we're talking about skill level. And that is exactly what Van Gundy's talking about. If we just take players for the skill ability, for what they actually do in today's NBA and compare them to what guys were doing back then, there really is no comparison. But we all know there's a certain fan base that doesn't like this, right? Obviously, if you're a basketball fan, this is not to disparage players of the past. This is just to acknowledge how great today's NBA is. So I know y'all going to say, what 20 players in the last 20 years is better than all the players who ever played in NBA history? Well, in GOAT James Kingdom, we'll give you that list. First, let's just start off with LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Luka Doncic, Joker. 5 guys right there. Then if you want, we can add Giannis, Harden, Westbrook, CP3, Kawhi Leonard. Now we can go to some players that we know that are retired. Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, Dwight Howard. We know Damian Lillard is another player that we can add to this list as well. Let's add Anthony Davis to that list. And here's where y'all probably going to get all upset, because we're going to add guys like Draymond Green, guys like Jason Tatum, guys like Joel Embiid, right? Those guys are all a part of being in the top 20 greatest players in the last 20 years. We also got players like Anthony Edwards, Donovan Mitchell, right? All great players. SGA, that's 21 right there alone. And we're not even counting the 2000s players, right? We're not counting the Chris Boshes, right? We're not counting the Ron Artests, right? We're not counting the players of that era that we know, the Dirk Nowinskis, the Paul Pierces, right? Because y'all going to say these guys were all before 2005, right? So we're just going to stick to the players that were in their prime after 2005, because we could add Kobe to this. We could add Tim Duncan to this. We could add a bunch of players to this. Amari Stoudemire to this. All of these players are more skilled and more talented than players of the 1900s. So it's not really that far-fetched to say that the best players that ever played the game are in the last 20 years, because in reality, we are watching the best basketball we have ever watched, basically right now in 2025. So yeah, Stan Van Gundy was on point with this. I know it gets a lot of people upset, but yes, this era is better. Today's players are better. And if we go 25 years from now, 35 years from now, those players will be better than today's players. It doesn't stop because this is something that we want to choose as an option for today. No, we just recognize greatness, which is something that a large part of basketball fans can't appreciate, which is actual greatness. Now, the difference between what those guys did back then and what players are doing today is that those guys back then have the stats, accolades, and achievements to represent their greatness. So when we want to talk about players' greatness, like I've always told everybody, it's going to be in the stat sheets. It's going to be in the stat books, the record books. These are the things that let us know who are the greatest players to ever play the game of basketball, not the skill level, eye test, or all of this other nonsense that people love to bring up when we're discussing players and comparing players. But at the end of the day, here in GOAT James Kingdom, we recognize greatness. Joker's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Has he accomplished more than other greats? No, but he is obviously one of the most skilled players we have ever seen. Top 5, hands down. But that's just skill level. And that's why We need to have more discussions like this. And if you like this type of content, come to GOAT James Kingdom. I'm A. Johnny the Exposer. Peace and blessings. See y'all soon.